Hi, what's up, everybody? Wall Street Jesus here. Saturday Sweep Series, another one. Before you know it, this summer will be over. Even though it's just a start here. But these weeks keep flying by. Feels like we just did one yesterday. But we have another Saturday upon us. I appreciate everybody coming out, spending the morning. We'll go over quite a few things, a lot of interesting things. Market's been extremely interesting. A lot of different things going on within the overall market. You heard me mention in the past, one thing that I really find fascinating about this market, you really can't just look at ES, SPX, SPY and get a solid depiction of what's going on. I think that can create problems, at the same time create opportunities. But a lot of times you got to look at what's going on underneath the hood, specific sectors. Sometimes, just the NASDAQ in particular is marching to the beat of its own drum. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll go through some of the action that caught our eye in the steam room this past week. Not a lot of it, I'll be honest with you, not a lot of solid activity with some decent trades within the week, but not as much. The quality wasn't there, I would say that. And I think the reason for that, and we'll go into that a bit too, you had the NASDAQ, a lot of the FANG names, the hot names pull in, and we're seeing more of the type of activity of players just looking for a trade, looking to buy names that may have come down too quick, and rather than us seeing that quality of order flow, we're just seeing players looking to take advantage of that and trade. And as we head into the summer, we'll probably see more of that. The summer's usually quiet. Not to say there won't be quality activity out there and selective names. I just think there'll be less of it. So we'll go into that, and we'll also talk a little bit about where we sit as far as sentiment is concerned. Pretty interesting stuff there too, and explain a little bit of what to look for in the coming weeks. Maybe set up some opportunities as far as that's concerned. Just to initially touch on, again, a lot of times we just have new people who come in the middle of this series. We've been doing this series several weeks now, every Saturday, 11 o'clock. What we talk about here, first of all, so you know, what we focus primarily in the Steam room, that's a trading room, chat room that we offer with flow alerts and so forth. It's not necessarily unusual activity, unusual volume. You heard or read the term on here, wise guy activity, okay? And the simple definition of that, okay, in my view, in simple English, is wise guy activity is clean-cut, aggressive order flow, okay? So that's what I focus on. That's what a lot of our followers focus on. So it's not, wise guy activity doesn't have to be unusual activity. It doesn't have to be some huge size block trading in a name. We're looking for that aggressive behavior. The more aggressive, the more solid the setup. Okay, and when you tie that to other things you may be looking at on your end, whether it's technicals, sentiment, Elliott waves, Fibonacci's, whatever it is you may have confidence in, when you tie the two together, through my experience, it provides a nice edge. And again, I want to make clear, it's not a crystal ball. If you're looking for a crystal ball, I advise you to give it up because there's no such thing. But it applies, when you apply both of them and some sort of game plan where there's risk management involved, you have that little edge that can quicken your path to profitability as a trader. Okay, and trust me, I'd be the first to admit that without a game plan, without some sort of risk management structure, where a system that allows you that if you win more than you lose, you will be profitable. This is all a fantasy, and everything in this market is. Okay, no matter what you have, if one loser can wipe out 3 winners, you're not going to make much headway in this game. Okay, so that is the most important thing. You're not going to hear many people, especially on social media, talk about that because it's all about the big winners, and that's what sells. But you have to have some sort of game plan, and I want to throw that out there initially before we even talk about what we offer on our end. Okay, so that's what we do, aggressive activity. And what I mean by that, put yourself in these players' shoes, okay? You have or are managing a large sum of money, okay? If you're confident in a name and want to get long of a name via the options market, okay? So you're looking to speculate on the long side in the options market, and you have high confidence in that trade, how would you approach it? Okay, like I said, you have the bullets they have, you have the ammo they have to fire at these things. How would you approach that? And in my eyes, what I've seen, again, over a lengthy time in this game, is that in the simple nature, when these players keep coming, when they aggressively come after specific names, more than not, it sets up a quality trade. Okay, some may turn out to be big winners. Some may turn out to be just quick trades over the next couple days or even that same day. Some do nothing and end up being losers. Okay, but again, more than not, a lot more than not, if you're applying the proper risk management or some sort of game plan behind these things, you can really see the true edge in this intel. And, you know, if you've been with us every Saturday here, we've gone through several names. Okay, and like I said, not all of them end up performing. But if I was sitting here telling you that they all perform, I don't expect you guys to take me seriously because I'd be wasting your time and my time. Okay, even if I got you to sign up, you would realize that there are going to be losers, okay? But like I said, there's some big time winners. You need a little luck on your side. We'll talk about the Amazon trade with WFM. Amazon, a lot of people in the Steam room caught that. They were lucky, and I'll tell you why they were lucky in a second. I think the WFM side, the Whole Foods side, was more of the edge in the flow than Amazon per se. But I'll tell you why a lot of members got lucky with the Amazon. And actually, it happened the next day, and I think that's why we had a lot of people catch that big move. All right, so we'll go into that, and then at the end, I'll take some questions on names, strategy, what you should maybe be looking for out of this stuff, and so forth, okay? If you're looking for more information, you could go easy website to remember, wallstreetjesus.com. Same as my Twitter handle, put a .com at the end. We got a ton of information on here. Free to everybody. We offer a community. You click on this market updates tab right at the top here. And you have free access to a ton of pre and post market information, top sweepers, top bets, open interest, sentiment, even stuff that just catches my eye in relation to some of the names we may be looking at. So you click on the market updates and you'll be able to access all this, no trial, free to everybody. And as well as that, you will have access to the lounge area. And I'll show you what that looks like quickly. And this is basically a place where a lot of traders, both on the member side who subscribe to our service and who are just here free, okay? A lot of different traders talking about action, talking about certain setups they may be looking at. Lucci spends a ton of time in here talking about names and activity he's looking at and for. So a lot of quality stuff in here for free, like I said, no obligation. So you go to wallstreetjesus.com to access that. Here you got a strategy section. If you're curious about or interested about any of this information and want to brush up on some of it, here's the spot. Okay, whether it's simple, just sweeps, you're new, you're not familiar with it, there's a little blog post here, help you out better understand it, how to use this information. You see all the titles here. How do I know if an order is a bet or a hedge, or does it matter? So even, some rambling on my part, but a lot of decent stuff in here if you're interested in this stuff to help you better understand what the hell we're looking at in here. All right, action and review. We post that on Twitter. A lot of you know. That's a quick synopsis at the end of the day of some of the top action that went on. And here on the product side, that's where you can access basically what we got going on, any specials. Right now we have several packages. We offer 50% off the first month of the Steam Room. Okay, so basically you have access to the trading room, real-time alerts, post-market webinars, pre-market webinars. I'm on audio videos throughout the day talking about the action as it comes in, sharing commentary on it and so forth. Like I said, you go to wallstreetjesus.com, you can get all this stuff. Here's the free community and what you'll be receiving with that. Also, if some of you want to just dip your beak and maybe get a feel for the Wise Guy activity, or maybe the price of this is too hefty for some of you, we offer a private Twitter feed that basically is just a flow. Okay, you get some open interest pre-market, some sentiment stuff post-market, and we offer that at a discount now. We spun it off into a separate entity for basically $60, and that's access to just a private Twitter feed, which we'll look at this. You get some pre and post market recap stuff, but basically these are what the alerts look like. All right, and I just want to throw in, if you are a member of the trading room, this is included in your membership. So it's not something you have to pay extra for. This is all included. Basically, the premium membership, you get everything we have to offer. But we spun this off for some traders who maybe can't handle the Steam Room price or just want to get a feel. This is your best bet. The quality is obviously in the trading room because of the live audio video feed and a lot of people just sharing strategies in general. You really learn a lot about how to incorporate all this information into a trading style. So that's why that's important. If you have any questions, you can hit me up anytime, Lucci, email us on Twitter. You know where to find us. All right? Or, like I said, all of you guys should be in the lounge anyway. You hear me push this lounge. There's no money involved in that, so you should all be in there sharing some of your trading stuff. All right, let's get rolling here. Let's talk about the Amazon thing first. Let's talk about that. What I want to do first, where is it? Do I have it here? I might not have it here. Let me just post it there so I don't have to even waste time scrolling through it. Hang on. I want to show you the trades in Amazon that allowed members to be fortunate enough to catch this thing. All right, there it is. Basically, this activity came in the day before, so this is Thursday, before yesterday's news with Whole Foods. All right. Did they know about the news? Honestly, and I'll be the first to admit it, when I think even they got lucky, I think, in my opinion, somebody had an idea that something was going to take place Friday. Why? Not only did you have this, all right, let me see, I can highlight this so you can see. Not only did you have this bet, which basically was a $500,000 bet, $500,000 sweep, which is even more important, that expires the next day, okay, will really put the nail in the coffin for me on the thesis that these guys had an idea were these things. We saw for next week weeklies, the 990s, the 992 and a halves, even the $1,000 calls for next week see some aggressive activity. It was small in nature, but the reason it really caught my eye was they kept coming throughout the day, Thursday. So they showed no fear. And Thursday, I don't know if you guys really followed Amazon on Thursday, but Thursday, here's what Amazon, oh, I got it up here. Can I go back to Thursday here? I probably could, right? Maybe I got to go to this. Hold on. But Thursday, Amazon was weak, and Amazon's a rare name to catch sweeper activity. It has caught more than usual in recent weeks, I would say. Okay, but Amazon's a rare name to catch aggressive sweeper activity. It's just not. You know, Facebook, Apple, they're the total opposite. They catch it quite regularly, and you need to see more of that in Apple per se for me to be impressed. Okay, Amazon is totally different. You see a sweeper or two in Amazon, it's noteworthy right there in itself. And we had the weakness early on, okay, and it was just a grind throughout the day, basically. There wasn't any explosion to the upside. There was some pullbacks, some shakeouts. A lot of traders in the room traded it intraday. Some left runners, and they were fortunate enough for the next day. Some left the whole position, hoping for a follow through the next day to get out. And we caught the news. Amazon was actually down immediately off the news, and then just exploded to the upside. All right, so this was the activity. This is the type of activity we're looking for. Now, what I want to stress, and I mentioned to you how a lot of traders caught this news, but it was more being fortunate than anything else. With this type of action, you're not looking to make a play and hold on to it very long. You know, if you see a bet like this in weeklies that expire the next day, or even a week out, for you to be profitable consistently trading off this type of activity, you really want to be able to take the profits when they're there, okay? And Amazon was a solid day trade, like I said, off this activity anyway. So at the most, you were looking to hold on to it maybe the next day for maybe a gap up follow through off the heat. And then after that, you're looking to lock the majority of it in and maybe leave a free runner if you choose, okay? It doesn't happen like this all the time. So I don't want you to get that impression where the next day you run into news and all of a sudden, you know, you're happier than a pig in shit going into the weekend. It was very fortunate. I think if this happened next week, a lot less of our members would have been involved. There would have been some runners, but just as far as full positions, I think it would have been a lot less. And like I said, a lot of people day traded it and just left a piece, which was frustrating. I get it, but anytime you make money in this game, you can't be too frustrated. So this is what the action looked like going into that Amazon news. Now, Whole Foods, I told you, was a little bit different. And what I mean by that, Amazon basically, off the flow, was a quick trade, where Whole Foods was a different animal. And what was significant about Whole Foods was, this is yesterday's action. They did some rolling and some fresh buying, but this was it right here on the Whole Foods. Okay? This week in particular, you had some really decent size. I mean, Whole Foods, before Jana got involved, would see a small sweep of a 500 lot, and it would create a pretty noteworthy reaction. Okay, so it's not used to catching this type of activity where they're laying big wood, big money like this. But this is where things really started to get hot. before the JANA news, there was some activity that caught the JANA news. And then after that, the week of 4/12, 4/18, you could see here August again, Jan's, and then what's it? 6 days later, November's. They laid down the gauntlet. So that told us that maybe something wasn't going to happen immediately. In my opinion, probably JANA and their syndicate and whoever follows them doing the buying. Honestly, that's probably who it is. But it told us that they truly believe this thing will be selling at higher levels later in the year. Okay, whether it happens next week, next month, 2 months from now, this was a name to keep an eye on because there was some serious buying coming in all the way out to November. And I think here, I might have put it in the lounge. This gives an idea. This was a post on Twitter I posted. And you could see there was some buying before the JANA news, and they just continued to come after this thing. Okay, there weren't rolling positions. A lot of times we see them roll positions, right? They lock in some profit, and they leave runners. Okay, they're big in nature, but for them, it's their form of profit taking. This November activity that came in was fresh initial opening activity. And this chart pretty much gives a good idea of how they played this up to 4/18. And, the rest is history. So that was the point I was trying to make at the start of this webinar, and how the Amazon was more lucky in a sense. Or if it happened this coming week, a lot of people would have just had runners on, if they were fortunate enough. The Whole Foods was something that you could have looked to buy on dips and stuck with. If you had an initial position back in April in Whole Foods, and you had November's, you had more than enough time. You had more than enough time to keep a core position, trade around it. Interesting that you had this little shakeout before the news. Is that incredible? But it goes to show you how if you want to avoid these type of shakeouts, you have to use time. If you're trading options, you have to use time to your advantage. Go further out, and this way you could even piece into things and have the luxury of buying these things on weakness, because when they catch this type of activity, that's what you want to do. All right, so that's the Amazon, the Whole Foods. I know you guys heard a lot about it, so I don't want to talk too much about it. If you have any questions, we'll take that towards the end here. Let's look at some of the action we saw this past week. We'll start from the beginning here. Hold on, market updates. And again, this is stuff that I post in the free, which members have access to as well. This is not in real time. This is after the market and pre-market. So, but this is the free stuff that I'm posting. So a lot of you guys can find it useful. Even members, if you're a member, it's a solid way to brush up on some of the activity. All right, let me get to, what date is this? 6/16. I don't know when the start of the week was, but let me see some of this action here. All right, that's a couple days ago. Let's go a little further than that. Mercedes, OCLR. I'll go one more day. Yeah, like I said, it's been very selective buying. I'll mention as I go through them what bets I was impressed with, but there's not a lot of them. A lot of this action has been repeat activity in names that have caught a ton of action, and I ignored. All right, let's start here, okay? This was a theme we were seeing, STWD. All right, that's a REIT, and you can see here December sweepers in a REIT. That's a rare thing in itself. Nothing huge in size, but there was that aggressive behavior in it. And we've been seeing quite a few of these things. Some have had nice moves over the short term. Some have had moves and retraced. But we have been seeing a lot of aggressive speculation in the REIT space probably, I would say, going on a couple of weeks now. This is one they played this week. Had a decent move for this name. They were buying around here quite aggressively, and they came back several times. And you can see this thing had a little bit of a lift, slow mover. This is the STWD, Starwood Property Trust, and you can see there on the abbreviation thing here, REIT. So a lot of REITs. I don't know what to tell you guys when it comes to this stuff. If you're interested in making a play in a REIT space, and again, that's how you should look at the flow anyway. If you were looking at REITs and you wanted to add a REIT to your portfolio, or you knew REITs were outperforming and you were trying to figure out which one would be best to open a position on, that's where the flow can be your guide in a sense. I mean, here was one really aggressive activity, and could have got your eyes on this. I know for me, I don't pay attention much to any of these REITs, so I would never even know this name exists, let alone make a play on it without flow. So not everything has to be so robotic, and you have to make a trade on the order flow just because. If you have no interest in REITs, then you just ignore the flow. If you were looking at the group, because it's been hot, you can make a play. This NBR's oil, we've seen both sides on that. Paychex was another interesting one. I haven't really followed it too much this week, Paychex. Yeah, it looks like it got a little lift. You can see here, they got aggressive in this thing, buying the July 60 calls. All right, so that's a couple sweepers that I listed here. You can see the word multi at the end here. If you're curious, that's in a lot of our alerts. They swept multiple exchanges to get filled. Okay, so again, that's aggressive, and that's what we're looking for. And here's the point I'm trying to make. You can see the premium here. 95 grand means peanuts, right? Where's the other one here? 78 grand, the second one. Not a lot of money. Then another one, 62 grand. But the action as a whole, and I'm making the point that they were aggressive, right? They came a couple of times. That's the stuff we like to focus on. All right, so they came after these July 60 calls. The stock, when was this here anyway? 60 and change. Yeah, so a couple days ago this was. A couple days ago. All right, so that was some of the notable activity on that day. Here, I think on this list, we got a couple of bigger names. SGMS, this has seen a ton of action, guys, this Scientific Games. A ton of action. I'm talking about going back probably a year now. SGMS. I don't know if many of you follow this name, but this is a name, especially on any dips, you should definitely keep an eye on. Because going back, like I said, when this trend initially started, this thing saw unusual aggressive sweeper activity, and they have not stopped throughout. And it saw some action in this consolidation, and then saw some activity early in the morning here. Actually, was a nice day trade. I did not trade it because it was in the green already, but had a pretty decent move that day. So they played the June 26 calls and the July 29 calls. So some small sweeper activity. Here's what, this is another feature that the room offers for those of you who are not aware. You could go back and look at some of the flow in the past in some of these names and get an idea of where the action started. Is it overextended? Should you wait for a pullback? What's still open? That sort of thing. And you can see primarily green going back to 2016 here. We saw some, here's the big bet we saw recently. Jan 2018, $25 calls, $2.5 million bet back at the beginning of the month. That's what I was referring to when I first hit up the name. And then on June 2nd, a day later, more Jan calls, 450 grand there. You got some October action from last month. So again, further out, and that's why a lot of times these further out strikes shouldn't be ignored. You don't necessarily have to rush to make a play right now. If they're up, you can wait for maybe a down day. I would suggest that. But add the name, put it on your screen, keep an eye on it, and at least you know that there's been some smart money buying in the name. And usually, a lot of times, they'll support these names. You'll see a pullback, and if there's a pullback, they'll come in and add to their positions to help support these names into and on any weakness. So this is one definitely to keep on the list, that SGMS. PHM, we've been seeing a lot of activity in home builders. We've been seeing a lot of leap activity in home builders. After this bet, the PHM July 24 calls, we saw a Jan 2019 call buyer in size on this PHM. This you might find interesting. I don't know if you guys caught Bill Miller, who's notorious for putting on those sharp leap plays. He did it in Amazon and basically retired off it. He did it in Twitter. He took a lump on it. But he mentioned how he was long via options in Lennar through leaps, and we saw Lennar leap, LEN. So I wouldn't be surprised this is him going out Jan 2019 and buying these home builders in size, Lennar, PHM, DHI. All three of them caught almost identical 2019 call bets. So, again, something like, for example, here was the thing with PHM. It caught that sweeper activity, this one here I'm mentioning, that set up the quick trade, right? July 24 calls, you want to make a short-term play on that, that's fine. The leap activity is something you don't necessarily have to rush for. You can initialize a position there, you get some weakness, add to it. We went through what went on in Whole Foods. That started back in April for November. Okay, so you're not looking for instant gratification on some of these leap bets, but in my opinion, if you want to catch the nice score, you better have some time on your side. Okay, I think traders like to have their cake and eat it too. They want to catch the score, and they want to catch it in weeklies, like Amazon. That's luck. That's total luck. Okay, I'm not going to say it never happens. It happens, but you need some luck on your side. Okay, if you want to build a position, and especially build it into weakness, I think that you could use to your advantage is a huge advantage. You need time on your side. And a lot of these names, a lot of retail traders just ignore the activity, especially if they don't see a pop within a week, and they go on to be some of the biggest winners. I mean, Amazon's a perfect example. You guys know what I'm talking about too, most of you, in that Amazon. I'm not talking about the short-term sweeps recently. I'm talking about the Bill Miller leaps a couple of years ago when the stock was 300. AAL, this catches size all the time, but I would say the airlines have seen some bullish activity. They're tough. My favorite activity in the group is probably this UAL. That caught a bet this week, pretty much right here, maybe a little bit lower. You know what I mean? It caught it within this little consolidation here. I just will say the airlines usually are a tough play, and they catch some size activity. But this UAL, probably the best looking single order of the bunch. AAL caught some size as well, but has seen bull flow, I would say, probably for at least a good month now. Micron, Jan 2019, that really doesn't tell us much. You guys know the story with Micron. That thing catches a bullish bet every single day. Let's see what else we got. What's on this day? This is another REIT, AGNC. I mean, look at this thing. So here's what I was explaining to you about the REITs. This guy comes out and sells 5,000 December 21 puts to open. The stock at the time was 21.43, so that's pretty aggressive. And then sells 5,000 September 21 puts, same day. Collects another 280 grand, collected $500,000 on the first one. Stock was the same price. So, yeah, you see that type of action. Again, it's REITs, it's tough. But if there wasn't a REIT, that's the type of activity that we would get really excited about. Unfortunately, it's a REIT, and it's tough to get excited about. But you can see, look at this thing. Strong as hell, and since that action has done nothing but go higher over the last couple of days. Merck caught a bet there. That was a late print. That's a block. Nothing decent, okay size, but I'm not interested in that. T-Row, October 75 calls. SeaWorld caught an unusual sweeper. That was a nice day trade. This OCLR has seen some activity. I don't know if you guys know that name. Cheaper semi. Another name that has seen flow for quite a bit. They've stuck with this name for a good year, I would say. The flow has heated up in recent days here. There's been some chatter, if I'm not mistaken, that they put the company up or going to put the company up for sale. I could have that wrong, but something in that arena. But this OCLR, they rolled out some positions this week, some of the June positions that expired. They rolled some of that out and added some wood to some new positions. So again, flow seeing an uptick here, but there's some news and chatter around it as well. That was that day. QCP, that's another REIT, August 20 calls. That was significant volume for that name, QCP. This is just the other day. Yeah. So this is what this looks like. A lot of REITs. A lot of REITs. Where's some of the recent one here? Hold on. What do we got here? This was one of the better looking orders that have come in. I really like this sweep, the Caterpillar sweeper. 5,600 plus July 110 calls. They swept multiple exchanges. 400,000 plus bet there. Stock was 105-ish. Had a nice move. Was a nice day trade and then follow through the next day. This was just a couple days ago. So it caught it this morning. On that morning, closed strong. Like I said, was a nice day trade for some of us. And then, another follow through the next day. And this is what I mean by a trade and something you may want to give more time and you have more time with, that you're willing to absorb a pullback that may eventually come. In my opinion, you buy on this morning, you get a little bit of cushion, and you get a pop of another buck and change the next day, that's a trade. That's a trade. So knowing what you're trying to get out of these things and what you're looking for before you even think about pushing buttons is important. I don't think you can come into any of these things, or trading in general, and say, all right, I'm going to buy this thing just because Jesus likes to sweep, and I'll figure out what the hell I'm going to do along the way. You just logically, you're not going to find much success trading that way. So it's about understanding, what you're trying to achieve, what you're looking for out of this game, and what you need to focus on to find success. So if this sort of thing is not your style, then you wouldn't be looking to trade some of these things. You'd be looking for some of the other type of order flow where it may take time and you have time to build a position and you have the patience. You're looking for the bigger reward over time. What else we had? We had a lot of the quick hitters, and this is what I mean by that. Weight Watchers was a really nice day trade for some of us. I day traded that. You had aggressive sweeper here for Weight Watchers, 1,300 June 23rd weeklies. Then there was some insider buying news. An insider bought a decent amount or something like that. HOG, HOG, July 55s. Unusual activity there. That was the first one to hit. There were several orders after that. There was another solid day trade. That's what we're saying. We're seeing more of this stuff, of the quick hit type stuff, and less of the quality. If you guys remember me saying last week, we were seeing some decent quality, selective but decent. Names you may want to stick with. This week we didn't see a lot of that. And I think the pull in Tech and Fang had a lot to do with it. JD, you heard me mention that name several times. Huge September action towards the end of the week. First of all, there was a lot of buying in JD. You guys remember, for those of you who have been on the webinars these past few weeks, a lot of buying that stemmed up from down here, which made a fantastic trade. This was the initial activity in the name. And there was buying, from momentum players and everything and everyone along the way. So you had June positions that were expiring. A lot of that stuff got pushed out to September. Now, it looked like they added money to push them out. In other words, it wasn't necessarily profit-taking. They were paying up in premium to give themselves more time to stick with the name. So that's bullish. It's not as bullish as the initial activity back here, because look where she is now, compared to where they started buying. So some rolling, but not as much profit taking, I would say. But some heavy September activity in this JD the last couple of days here. Also some Jan action, which included rolling. Here's that PHM bet that I mentioned to you guys. One I think is probably Bill Miller, that Lenore, and DHI. 5,500 Jan 2019, $25 calls, $1.7 million bet. Again, that's Jan 2019, not this coming Jan, the following. This was an interesting one. CHRW. We've been seeing a pattern there too of these trucking names that have seen some quality wise guy activity in recent days. Here's what that one looks like. She was up Friday. I saw her down a bit. They bought it here on this day. That was Thursday. So you had a little bit of a push Friday. Here's what she looks like for the year here. So this thing been hit over the head, trying to make that turn. I wouldn't chase. I would wait for some sort of pullback, especially if you see activity into that pullback, if you're not in this already. But I wouldn't chase any of this stuff. I think buying weakness, we'll talk about that when we get into the sentiment here. I think buying weakness is the play right now. All right, and what started here, you had YRCW. They opened the largest position of open interest right here, right on that day. And this thing hasn't stopped since. So that was the first, I would say, significant bet in this sector. Then we've seen R, Ryder. We saw some bullish risk reversals in this name earlier in the week, I think it was. Early in the week, or maybe late last week. JB Hunt was small, but we saw some of that. JB Hunt, and now this CHRW. And they all look the same. This one looks like that YRCW when she caught action. You could see. It caught quite the beating. quite the beatdown. What else we got? X, U.S. Steel. And, I mean, for some reason, I guess traders love this name, but I just hear about this name every day. We talk about this now. We've been talking about this name a couple of weeks, okay? Same thing. The same. Nothing's changed in X as far as flow or what I'm seeing, okay? Here's what we've been seeing. We saw some activity start up down here, literally down here. Had a nice little quick move here, and August activity really started to heat up into this run. August, okay? Then we've had, like we've talked about, you guys in the steam room know exactly what I'm talking about. This is a name you don't want to chase green. You know there's heavy selling pressure, okay? You know it looks like crap. You want to use the flow to your advantage by buying weakness. Now, if you're playing X for just a trade off the flow, when you buy weakness and you get a lift like this is something where you got to look to take off some risk. If it comes down again and catches activity and you want to play it again, that's up to you. The other approach is you want to buy the lower end of the range where the action started. August calls. That's not this week, not tomorrow, not next month. August calls, so you have some time, and you're willing to stomach this volatility, chop, and selling pressure for potentially a bigger move. But you have time on your side. So all this is noise. In other words, if you bought X down here, okay, the August calls, this is all noise if you're not going to take it, right? If the up days, you're not taking it, what are you getting all excited about? And the down days, this thing's just trading. Right? So I'm saying if you want to make a play in the August calls, you're looking to buy before the move happens, as it's just starting. You get a rip, you're not chasing this, you're waiting for a pull again to the lower end of the range. Comes down. You see some action, you missed the first entry, you're looking to make a play on August, you're looking to make a play here, right? You're not chasing this move again. Back down, up, you're not taking this profit, then this shouldn't bother you. But like I spoke about a little earlier, here's what people want. They want to buy August activity and have this thing run to $30 in 2 weeks. You know, it's just not realistic. It's not realistic. If you want to trade it, you have to trade it. The definition of trading it is buying weakness and selling the rip. That's a trade. You're looking a little longer term. You got to make sure you have enough time, and it's evident how much selling pressure is in this thing. This thing's not in an uptrend. This thing's been weighed on significantly. So you're willing to stomach the selling pressure for potentially that bigger squeeze that may come in time. If it comes sooner, that's fantastic. But you have to plan on what realistically may happen, and that's this. You know, that's, again, like WFM, which was a total different animal, okay, because this is not under selling pressure. This was getting hot at the time. But if you're playing Novembers for something bigger, all this is noise. If you're not going to take the upside, the pullbacks are noise. You're looking for something bigger. That's why you went further out. If you were looking for just a trade, you would have been out on these pops anyway. And that goes back to the Amazon point, and I'm being honest. You know, I'm being straight with you guys. If this would have happened next week, okay, any little pop you're supposed to trade in Amazon if you're playing the short term. Maybe leave a runner like we spoke about. You can't expect, you know, like I said, to have your cake and eat it too. You can't expect to catch big winners in a short amount of time. It can happen, but you can't expect that. I think it's a big problem, and I notice it more and more amongst traders. They're caught in the middle. You know, they don't know whether they're trading short term or they're investors long term. You know, are you a trader or you're building positions looking for that bigger risk reward type thing? I think you have to iron that out initially. Otherwise, you face a lot of problems. So that's the X. What's going on in X? Listen, X catches a lot of size to begin with. Okay, X is not ILG. Okay, X is not any of the other names where one decent order is notable activity. X catches size. It's an active name. Understanding that there's somebody out there making a play on August calls. And I don't see anything that we've seen so far that, you know, shows us that anything different's happened. So they added August 24 calls. By the way, they did roll out from some June positions. And when you have monthly expiration, you're going to see a lot of that. So some June positions were expiring. They added some money to push them out to August. Similar to like the JD. All right, some of the action yesterday, similar. Like I said, yesterday, let me see. Everything's a blur to me these days. All right, here was the action yesterday. Not a lot of notable activity. Here was some of it. TER, that's been a fantastic name. Semiconductor. Had a sick run. This thing was slow, too. I remember trying to day trade this a couple of times. I think it was earlier in the year, or maybe even the year prior, late last year. And small losses every time I trade it because the stock doesn't move. Very slow. Make a long story short, there was some big-time action in the name, repeat activity, crazy move. And now with a lot of the semis, the high beta names got hit pretty hard off the highs, still relative to where it started, normal. And you had this guy come in by some October 35s, a decent wood, non-sweeper, but a decent bet for that name. Let's go to Netflix. Netflix, interesting activity. I like when I see this. December, deep in the money, 130 quote. All right, so the reason I like these type of orders is that I know it's not somebody just trading or speculating. There's somebody who knows a lot more than you and I getting involved. Now, it's out later in the year. They're deep in the money, but I wouldn't, like I told members, I wouldn't ignore that bet. Now, how you would make a play off of it is a whole different story depending on what you're looking for, you know? But I wouldn't ignore it, okay? Maybe early next week. We saw some weekly activity, actually, for next week come in on the smaller side. Netflix went from red to green a couple times yesterday. But hopefully, maybe we'll see some sharp activity come in early next week that is easy to make a play off of. Unless you want to make a play. I think, in my opinion, the only way to play off that order is going out to December and, putting on something of that nature. It doesn't have to be the 130s, obviously, but meaning you have the same amount of time there because you really don't know what he's going after. Yeah, just because December doesn't necessarily mean it's going to take till December, but the bet itself is telling us that he's not worried about paying for time. He wants time on his side. So I think you need to do the same if you're going to make a play off that. And this was, let's go to WDC. That's similar to Micron, a name that has caught a lot of activity this year. Here you had a September bet. It's possible, I got to check open interest, that it may roll out a June position. This has been a name with a ton of action, as I said. But a nice looking bet here. You had a sweep of 500 September 85 calls, pays 830. So lay some decent wood there, in the money. And, I don't know about you guys, but the stuff that gets me excited are the stuff deep in the money, close to the money. The out of the money speculation is something I would just look to trade off the momentum it creates. It's cheap speculation. That's what it is. So you got to treat it as such. Where, this bet, like this December 130 bet, we initially were seeing that in Netflix last year, right before that name really caught fire. There were several of them. I think they were Septembers at the time, but some really hot action. So that's the stuff I like to, or gets me excited. Here was some speculation. RMD. They aggressively came after July 80s into the bell, and some strange action. I know quite a few guys in the room who put on some lottos, hoping to maybe see something over the short term, but this name does not get sweeper activity, and they literally waited till the last, 10, 15 minutes of the day to get into these things. And you can see the reaction off it. I actually day traded it. It was a nice hit. If we had more time, it would have been even better. But like I said, this thing came in here, and let's see, what are these all the sweeps? I think I just put off some of them. Let's see. Yeah, so 1548, that was some of them. So throughout the day, there were some smaller ones early. They came in later in the day, and you can see the action really get hot here. A name to keep an eye on. I don't know if you guys know the name. It's been a hot name. Medical Instruments and Supplies. They got something up their sleeve. Now, here's how I would approach if you didn't get into the name. Monday. No news, nothing, right? And there's a good chance of it. Who knows? News. You wait for news and you'll go broke. But Monday, no news. Stock is down a little bit. And they come after it again. Sets up even a stronger signal than the Friday activity. You understand? So just because you didn't get in Friday doesn't mean you need to ignore this. We've seen it plenty of times, where they get in initially, they buy some of this cheap crap speculation into the bell, and then there's no reaction, stock doesn't do much, and all of a sudden they come into it a couple of days later and hit it even heavier than they did initially. So that's what I would, that's how I would approach that. A name to keep an eye on if you're not in, to take a shot already. All right, so that was yesterday's activity. Like I said, nothing too crazy, I mean, you had Netflix, December deep in the monies. Oh, this RHI, that was out of the money too. This might open the largest position of open interest, actually. September 55s. I actually day traded this thing too Friday. Did nothing. But it's not the biggest mover. Oh, this is a minute chart. Here's the daily. Doesn't look too bad. The only thing I don't like about it, I mentioned it to members, September 55s are a bit too far out of the money for me. If they came in hitting September 48s, I would be a lot more excited about that order flow. September 55s is, again, more of just speculation. It doesn't mean you can't get a trade out of it, but I would have really liked it if they were close or in the money. And then you got, potentially they're looking to jump this breakout of consolidation. I like those trades. I like those trades, especially if they keep coming after it. You know, you've seen it with like the FedEx. Win was a beauty of that. You know, had sideways forever and then broke. This FedEx, you guys see this FedEx? Oh, by the way, UPS was some of the better order flow. That wasn't this week though, right? I think it might have been last week, this UPS. But they went for a break here too. Meanwhile, Amazon might buy FedEx, right? Eventually. That's probably what's going to happen. All right, let's talk quickly about sentiment, and then I'll get in. I've done enough rambling. I'll get into some of your questions, some of the names you guys have. All right, here's the fascinating thing about sentiment. I'm going to blow this up for you a little bit. Again, this is off TC2000. Gives you an idea. It's not exactly what I look at, but it gives you an idea. I just want to blow it up as best I can so you guys can see. All right, so basically, when we spoke last week, you guys remember me mentioning how the only warning sign of a tech pull was this. Okay, so hopefully you guys could see this. So as I click on that, you can see it highlighted. This is a chart of the Qs over here, and this is SPX here. So you can see where it came in. So this low reading basically was just a warning that call buyers were a little too giddy. Players weren't concerned enough. They weren't putting on protection. They were buying calls. And that's a sign of caution. That's all. A sign of caution. Okay, that was the warning sign right here. You can see on the Qs, that's up over here. And on SPX, that's over here. Okay. Since then, you know, you had the low put the call. We even got close over here. That's over there as well. You can see. Since then, you can see what happened. As this market, and as, well, the S&P has been solid as a rock. It's been more on the Q side. The Qs and all the high beta names had this pull, and you can see what's going on with the put the call now, right? Slowly, not only getting back to normal, but creeping up. And that's a positive. That's a good sign. So I mentioned earlier, I think buying weakness is the advantage right now for longs, because what's going to happen if the Qs get dicey, right? If Apple breaks down or any of this shit rolls over, we're most likely going to get readings up above here, and that's going to create a nice high probability squeeze play. Okay, but while we're waiting for that, I think, especially on an intraday basis, you can look for flow coming into names that are red. And that's what I've been doing as a day trader. So in other words, Friday and Thursday, I think it was too, I didn't trade much of anything that was green. Friday especially. I really wanted to stick to my guns Friday and not trade anything that was already up, worrying about, again, a fade. But if it was down and caught flow, I was going to play it for that squeeze. Okay, like I said, Thursday I did it a little bit. Friday I did it a little bit more. And another reason for that, the order flow itself hasn't been spectacular. You know, there hasn't been crazy buying into weakness or even into strength. It's been blah. And when I see that, you know, I'm a guy who likes to buy weakness anyway to begin with. So that's something I'm trying to stick to. So just in case there's that fade, you don't have to worry about getting caught, and you could utilize the weakness to catch the inevitable squeeze. Because like I said, if things are weak, if the market's weak, you're going to have a high put the call reading, and that's going to set up a high probability squeeze. So if you're a swing trader, if you're buying weakness, even if you're a little bit early, chances are you'll catch the squeeze eventually to trade into or out of. Okay, but what I want to add, and we've been talking about this a lot, it's this market more than ever. It's on a case by case basis. I mean, it's crazy. Like tech is in its own little world. You got oil following crude, right? Gold, I don't even know what's going on these days in gold. So you got so many different things going on that it's not as clear as a picture as it normally is. Yeah, because for example, you had this low put to call reading, okay, and yeah, it saved you some downside on the tech high beta names, but the S&P hasn't gone anywhere. Yeah, this thing's just stuck up here, solid as a rock. So that's and that's the way I would be looking at it. I would be looking at if there's flow into some of the tech names, and you got a high put to call, expect the squeeze there, the snapback there to be the biggest, and where the other stuff is really not really moving around too much. We've seen some commodity type plays. They've been like this Fastenal, caught buying into these lows, had a nice rip, then had an investor day where it was a disaster. That thing got killed, and then they started buying a little bit again to into that weakness. So we've seen stuff like that. The CENX aluminum play, but that's even old now. You had this big move. Look at it. Gave it all right back. So it's not all that clean. Oil, you had the Big Ice Friday really looking good, like the ExxonMobil, the Chevron, but then some of the smaller oil names really couldn't get out of the way. And the flow in oil has been strange too. We see, we'll see some decent buying in individual names, and then we see USO catch, 120 contract put buyer. It's very messy out there, very messy. So I just, I want to add that. And when things are messy, you don't want to get too crazy. That's the way I interpret it anyhow. When I'm not seeing the quality buying come in, if you guys remember, I was mentioning last week how I want to see some of the under the hood buying. Some of the names that we were seeing catch some really solid activity. I wanted to see that trend continue, and it slowed down dramatically. If you guys remember, names, I'm just bringing up some old names like this Penn. It was all under the hood type stuff. The Caesars. We're not seeing that much of it anymore. The one I can remember, you had UPS, had some nice action. UAL caught a pretty big bet. They were July calls. But other than that, I can't really, nothing really off the top of my head, where if you guys remember, a couple of weeks ago, I was rattling names all over the place. So, anyway, I just wanted to make that point. Let me get to some of the names you guys might be interested in. Maybe I'm not thinking of names. Maybe you guys have some names. Hold on a second. How do I do this here? Hold on. All right. So throw some stuff at me, throw some names, anything, questions about anything. It's your turn now. Let me just get in chronological order here. All right, I'm going to start. I should start at the bottom, but I'm so bad at that. So I apologize. I'm going to start at the top. So it's some of the most recent questions. Any thoughts or activity in Tesla for next week? Tesla, let me think. Oh, no, Tesla caught some activity yesterday. They played weeklies expiring yesterday. So it was into Tesla weakness. They were looking for a push higher. I think it actually had a push higher. I didn't follow it too much, but it was weeklies expiring yesterday. Other than that, just normal stuff in Tesla. No standouts. Okay, and I don't know if you guys remember, there was one real standout order in Tesla, but that's a long time ago now. You're talking back down here.
That was that deep in the money. I keep referring to those deep in the money guys. Deep in the money sweep back in March. Yeah, that's quite a while ago. Now we're seeing some crazy stuff. Yeah, we're seeing 450s for this, for that. So that's pretty much what we're seeing in Tesla. But any significant stuff in Tesla, you'll hear me screaming about. I know a lot of you guys follow that. AKS, similar to the X, similar action there. I wouldn't put. Here's the thing with AKS, Robert. AKS, you'll see the big contract size, right? You'll see 20,000 calls, but they're going for 13 cents. So don't get fooled by the contract size. I would say this, though. I would put it in the X category. I'd lump it in the same way. Same thing. I think they both moved together. They both had a nice little lift. People thought they were gone from there. You had some selling off the X. It was actually news. I don't know if you guys caught it, that X was going to warn again, or warn for the quarter again. So it's absorbing some of that selling. The good thing is there's some flow coming into that selling. So my best advice would be this. If you're in the X, like I said, and you're looking for the bigger move, and you're in August, you're doing the right thing. Don't focus all your time and energy in X or AKS. It's just one group. There's too many names out there to focus your attention. Because you know what it is? I get the impression from a lot of people that if X is not a winner, their whole world comes crumbling down on them. That's not how you want to approach anything in this game. You want to, if X, you like the setup, you see aggressive flow come in, you put on a trade, you know your risk, you have your game plan, you know what you're going to do. Next case. You know what I mean? Next day. Now you're looking for something else. No reason to focus on X, especially if you're a swing trader, on every little move up and down. And what do you think of this? You like the setup, you're in the name, you're in August calls, you're looking for more. That's it. Next case. It's a loser, it's just a loser. No matter how solid the flow, the chart, or anything else may look, it always has a shot to be a loser. There's no way you're going to avoid that. So I just get that impression that a lot of traders are trying to avoid or trying to figure out how do I know, is there a way to figure out if it's a loser or not? No. You try to treat them all the same way. Your signals fire, you fire, case closed. What else we got here? We have Micron and NVIDIA. Michael, tough. The only thing I would say about both of them, Micron has been ridiculous. Like the flow in Micron has just been jaw-dropping for a year now. I think the trade in both of them or flow is into weakness. Example, NVIDIA, you got a day, it's down $2 and people are nervous, and all of a sudden call sweepers come in. That's your trade. Now, again, I'm not saying hold it 2 months and look for $300. That's your trade. Okay, similar, we saw it Amazon before Friday's buying. We saw Amazon buyers come into this weakness. And then there was a quick pop. That's your trade. So that's what I'm looking, that's how I would look at NVIDIA as well. Again, these things are just right now, they're taking a breather. It's a good thing. And we'll see how long it lasts. But I think because of how quick these downturns were, we're seeing buying come into those looking for the snapback. I mean, look at the moves on some of these things. Some of these things bounced significantly. And that's a profitable opportunity there if you're looking for that. Now, if you're looking to buy this and hold for new highs, there's a lot more risk involved in that over the short term, obviously. So I think that's, again, where the focus of not only sweepers, but I think if you're a trader, should be to try to take advantage of the flushes in some of these things, whether it's on an intraday or a multi-day basis. But if you get that pop, take off some risk. Baba, again, in that category, Baba, ton of action. Look at the move in Baba. So she's breathing now. She's breathing. Here's the one thing I would say about Baba. There's so many bulls in this thing. Everyone's bullish for good reason. I mean, that's the reason this thing gapped up, right? The news was significantly bullish. I just think you got a lot of bulls in here. There's going to be some shakeouts. Again, I think your opportunity is, if there is a decent shakeout, you see some flow come into weakness, some selling, trying to take advantage of that. But there's a lot of bulls in this Baba, so you just got to be careful. Not that it'll fall apart, but it may just sit here for a bit. So depending on what you're looking at out of it. Hold on. Did I just screw up the time on this? Hold on, I'm getting there. All right. BHP, Michael, haven't seen a thing in BHP in a while. So I haven't seen much action in that. HBQ Visa. HBQ has had a lot of bull flow. Visa, Tony, we've been talking about that for a while. You had some action recently. Let me pull up the Visa. I'll pull up the board for you. Visa, this was the initial activity play. I don't know if you were around for that. They bought the living daylights out of this consolidation. So that was the play to get long here. You had the rip into earnings. Then earnings, stock did nothing. Then you had this consolidation again, which is a little higher than initial activity. And sweepers hit this. You had this move. And now into this little pullback here, we saw, I think it was December and Jan's. Let me pull it up so you know. I think it was further out, though, if I'm not mistaken. Hold on. So many windows, I don't know what's going on. Hold on. June, what's this? June. Oh, that expired. They were looking at it. So those are gone. They played it just for the next day. Here you got on 6/12. This is what I was talking about. So you had a bet Jan 97.5 calls, pretty decent sized sweep, 377 grand, and you had December 100 calls, 772 grand. But they are going further out now. You see that? So they're going further out, and just in case there might be some quiet time. But this is not initial activity. This is the third, I would say, breather since the initial activity. You had this, and now this. So that's how I would play it. If you were looking for a pullback and looking to get long, I wouldn't rush it necessarily. In other words, I would use December, January's, and I would try to buy on red days. That's how I think that's the play here on Visa, because it's not initial activity. Or if you see some shorter term flow come into this type of day, it sells off, you see some sweepers come in for a bounce, you got that trade. But that's that quick trade. If you're looking for more, I think you have to have time on your side. That's what they're doing, December, January's, and try to utilize buying on down days. There's no reason to rush, I don't think. Let's see. Facebook caught some action Friday too. Facebook caught some action. Same thing like the other stuff, Randy. There was A little bit of Facebook activity into the sell-off. You got the little bounce back, and then the same thing recently. So the only thing Facebook was Green Friday. So I don't know if you're talking about buying Facebook from here or you're in Facebook. If you're not in, I would be looking again for the same setup. Pull and sweeper activity into that pull for a short-term trade. You understand? Because it's possible. I mean, there's several possibilities, but these things can bounce around here for a while, right? They can take a breather for a while. These things have been hot. It'd be totally normal. What also is normal is that these things have another leg lower, and that would still be totally bullish. I mean, look at this drop back in Facebook last year. You know, so these pullbacks are normal, guys. And that's the risk you take when you're buying up at these levels off moves and looking for a lot more upside. That's the risk, that you get caught in something like this. You never know when it's going to come. So this came, and you have to treat it a little bit differently now until we see how this plays out. But like I said, if you get weakness and we see flow into weakness, I think that's an opportunity in itself for a trade. I know a lot of you guys don't want to hear that. You want to hear Facebook's going to 250, but yeah, I'm being straight with you guys. HT saying, Jesus, I made money yesterday buying the dip in the grocers that got crushed on the Amazon news. I didn't wait for flow. For major intraday news, do you wait for flow? Confirm. Yeah, HT, I trade solely off flow. So, you know what I mean? I'm trading solely off flow. What the hell else am I going to do? And I'm not trying to discount what you may know, but I stay away from trying to make my own decisions. I've cost myself way too much money, HT. I'm in this game, what now, how long? 20 plus years. So I know quite a bit about myself and just sentiment in general, that I couldn't find any consistently trading off my own instincts. That's why I do what I do. That's why I do what I do. So I wait for flow. In other words, you bring up a good point. I was thinking the same thing, okay? But I waited for flow. So in other words, I traded SYY off flow yesterday. That's what I did all day yesterday. I had a pretty decent day because I traded a lot of red names that caught flow. So the answer to your question is yes, I wait for the flow as confirmation before I pull the trigger. Here's why, HT. Let's say I'm buying weakness, like these names, okay? I don't know from experience when that selling is going to stop. Like, what am I basing it off of? In other words, for example, I want to buy this SYY, right? Like you came into the day yesterday, you said, these things are getting whacked. Even if this Amazon news is as big as a deal as they're saying, these things are at least going to have a bounce out of them, right? On M&A speculation or whatever. So I'm looking for an entry into these things. How do I know when this selling is going to stop? I don't use any other indicators. Nothing has made me money in the past. I don't really look at charts. You know what I mean? I solely go off flow. What tells me the selling is coming to an end are call sweepers. So in other words, when I see call sweepers coming in and they're aggressively playing into the weakness, it tells me that at least there'll be a window of opportunity where the momentum is switching and I'll get a trade out of it. And that's what I was looking for. Now, I missed a hell of a lot of run on this SYY in particular, which caught some decent activity. But, that's my confirmation. That's my confirmation. Again, not everybody in the steam room, they trade off their own stuff all the time. But I also know quite a few people I've worked closely with that solely use sweeper activity as a confirmation indicator and do nothing else. So everybody's different. If you find that you have success on your own, okay, then no reason to ask that question. But, and that's a pretty significant but, if you haven't been able to find success on your own over a decent period of time, and I'm not talking about success, I'm talking more consistency. We all find success. We're all going to step on winners, especially in a bull market. You know what I mean? Like, everybody claims and thinks they're a guru in a market where FANG goes up every day. I mean, what am I? I'm telling you, Facebook's going up when Facebook is going to go up when Facebook goes up every day. That's a joke. So if you haven't found consistency over a decent period of time, trading off your own instincts, then I do suggest you make some major changes. And one of those changes I've seen work for some traders is that they take what they feel comfortable with, what they believe in, okay, so like what you just mentioned, and they use wise guy activity as confirmation. And they will not trade unless the wise guy activity confirms it. And I'll tell you, it's worth a shot at the least. Like I said, if you haven't been finding consistency, it's worth a shot at the least of solely trading when wise guy sweepers confirm what you're looking at. My opinion, it's going to make you a better trader. One, you're going to be more selective. You're going to become more disciplined. You're not going to overtrade. Right there, that's enough to improve your results. So, but again, like I said, if you have found or have made money for yourself trading a certain way, I'm not an idiot. I would never tell you to stop doing that. What else we got? Chuck, do you find any value in playing option pins? Honestly, Chuck, I get that question a lot. I don't really follow it closely enough. I post it every day. In other words, I post the open interest every day. I know quite a few people are interested in it. I don't know if they really trade off it. I also know some people who really take it serious. But I'm being honest with you. I'm not going to lie to you. I haven't really looked at it closely enough. From what I'm told, it's a lot more credible when it comes to monthly expiration than weeklies. But I look at it more for sentiment purposes, Chuck. In other words, when I see open interest and there's a lot of outstanding put action there, and and we'll see that in the put to call anyway, I look at it through contrarian glasses and take that as a bullish thing, and I might choose to get more aggressive into weakness. That's about the extent of it. What do we got? Hold on. Okay. Alex is saying CNQ and CVE. Yes, Alex. Those are two energy names, CNQ and CVE. They both look identical. Well, actually, the CNQ might look a little bit better. To be honest, the CNQ is a better company. But here's the story there. CNQ and CVE caught some activity, had a little bump, and then right back to where it started. So the way I would approach it, Alex, if that's what you're asking, if you're in December's, okay, you're in December's. And you're in December's for a reason. we really don't know where oil is going to be come the end of the summer. Okay, we can all guess, but these oil stocks can finally squeeze, and we'll see rips that we've been looking for forever in these names, and that eventually means CVE be double digits. So if you're into Decembers and you're playing for the big move, I think you have to be patient and just sit there and wait. Okay, there's nothing else you can do about it. I mean, otherwise, you would be looking to trade these short-term pops, but, are you trading December for that? I don't think, and honestly, I think there's other spots where that trade's easier. The reason why I'm talking about CVE, I don't like the energy names because they're so tied to crude. Like if you're playing for a squeeze in an energy name, you might as well buy crude. Look at this, it's a perfect example. Crude squeezed Friday, and the CVE did nothing. That could frustrate you, right? So that's one of the reasons I hate energy names when they're under pressure. Because they pretty much are moving with the price of crude, and you might as well play CL or an ETF or something like that. But if you like this name, you think it's overdone to the downside, and there's big squeeze potential, the December flow could be significant confirmation for that. There's somebody who came in a couple times and loaded up in these December calls. What would be interesting here, Alex, if you're not in it to look at, to see if they come again, because it's right back down here again. So if you didn't play it yet, I would probably risk missing this to see if they come again. That would be really interesting if they come again, because they have more than enough time. All right, but that's my impression on CVE. You're making a play here at the lows. You may be early. That's why you're playing Decembers. So you're not going to let any further selling deteriorate your confidence. You're making a play, high risk, high reward, that this thing is going to have a decent squeeze come September based off the flow. Same with the CNQ. Same with the CNQ. And trust me, I've seen this CNQ, she can move. Here's the perfect example. I remember there was flow early in the year coming into this thing. And guess what, Alex? They were early here too. They were early. I think it came in around here, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe it was this one. It could have been this one. And it had a decent squeeze. I remember a couple of people traded it. Then went right back to new lows. And then, whoop. So that's basically what you're looking for out of these things. You're willing to be early. That's why you're playing Decembers or Jans in this CNQ. That's what the action was in, Jans. You're willing to be early and take on that risk for a decent squeeze like this from 28 to 34 in a month. And options, Alex, that's the luxury of buying calls. Okay, you can play the CNQ and you could say, as opposed to the stock, and you know me, I'm an equities guy. If I buy CNQ common, I got to be careful. I really do. Because if I'm early, I can really get hit over the head. If I'm buying calls, okay, whether I'm piecing into weakness or I'm just taking a shot at the lows here, one spot, I can say to myself, I'm risking the premium I'm putting in. So if I'm willing to lose 10 grand and no more than that, I'm just going to put 10 grand into those Jan calls and let it rip. That's my stop loss. If I'm willing to only lose 5 grand, I'm putting 5 grand into those calls, and I'm not even paying attention to what happens. So this way, even if you are early, you're not shaking out. You know what I mean? You're not really getting all stressed out about further weakness. Your stop loss is 0 if this thing doesn't make its move by January. And that's what I like about this play, that approach, if it makes sense to you. That's what I like. So in other words, you're buying CNQ Jan calls, you're risking what you put in, that's your stop loss, and you're not getting all shooken up if if you're early and there's further weakness, you're not getting shooken up if there's a little squeeze that comes right back down. You're saying, I'm looking for at least this. At least. And who knows? Look, it happens a lot, Alex. You know? Maybe you catch one of these bad boys. And then we go out for drinks. So that's how I would play it, if that makes sense. Mandeep is saying, you hit the nail on the head, consistency. Fewer trades, pick the quality ones. Yeah, and Deep, listen, every trader is different. Every trader is different. Some of us are real degenerates, Deep. You know, so we have to keep ourselves occupied. We need the action. So the way to approach that is you find a strategy that keeps you entertained, keeps you active, but you know your bread and butter is going to be on the select few names that you give a longer leash to, that you hit with a hammer, and you have more winners than losers out of. You know, like, for example, my strategy, I was talking to a couple of traders in the room Friday. The way I trade with day trading, okay, the norm for me are days where I play 3 names, okay, and, you know, 2 may be small winners, 1 is a small loser, or 2 may be small losers, 1's a small winner. So there's a bunch of scratch trades throughout the week. But 2, 3 of them that I happen, and I'll be the first to admit it, to get lucky on, that I took a shot on and really just went up in a straight line where I couldn't sell too early, that's what really polishes my P&L. So there's some small profits, small losses, scratches, but like Deep is saying, the handful of decent winners that I step on are the ones that put me over the edge. So I don't let the small losses bother me. The small gains don't excite me. They're keeping me entertained in the interim. And, you know, like, for example, this hog. Who would have expected? I mean, this thing catches unusual activity on Thursday. Where is it? Oh, here it is, right? Can I go back that far? I think you could see it here. Let me see if I can blow it up a little. So this one's a perfect example, okay? This hog is known to be a name that catches rumors and that crap, okay? So I played this thing on Thursday. The action came in before this big move, right over here. And this thing just went up in a straight line. So, you know, prior to that, I had a couple small winners, small losers, break-evens, but this is what got my account green for that day, you know? So that's what I'm saying. You can't let the smaller scratch trades, the break-evens, the small losses bother you if that's part of your strategy. You know, you can't let losers get to you. It's part of the game, and there's no way around it. The traders that try to figure out a way not to lose are the ones that will never find success in this game. Trust me. If you're trying to figure out a way, oh, maybe if I stick with this flow on this day in this market, the players who are looking to build something around that, those are the ones that really have a tough time, because one, the downside risk on a strategy like that, because you think you can't lose, that's why you're doing it. So your stop losses are way too big, or if you even have one, you know, usually are going to wipe out all your winners. I mean, I talk to many traders. You know, you hear them, oh yeah, did you make money this week? No, you know, how'd you lose money? Oh, well, I had US Steel and I lost money there. That's all you played? No, I had Hog, Weight Watchers, this one and that one. I made some money with that, but X, I gave it all back and was in the red. Yeah, so it's important, man. It's important. Trust me, it's important. There's got to be some sort of structure there. There's got to be some sort of game plan there. You can't, and it sounds corny, but so many traders just come in on a daily basis. They have no idea, no expectations. I'm coming in, oh, you know what? Facebook looks good today. I'm going to trade Facebook. I'm going to trade Netflix. They trade the same names every day. They think they can wring money out of Fang every day. They think they have an edge in the same name every day. Logic, just logically, as I'm talking about that, you know that you're not heading down the right path. David, hello. Could you please go into a little detail about Micron? I have some 32 and a halves for June 30th, the 29th earnings, down 50% on those. July 33s and 36 I'm holding. Really trying not to sell, but don't know, need help. And that's where I think, and I'm not trying to single you out, but David, that's exactly my point. You know what I mean? That's exactly my point. You bought all that, and you really had no plan. Do you even know why you bought those? Do you know what you were looking for? What was your plan into this thing? So there's nothing, and I hate to break it to you, there's nothing I or anybody else is going to be able to share with you on what you just told me to fix that issue. I can lie to you and tell you, listen, David, they're buying the living shit out of Micron. It should go higher. That'll make you feel better. So I'll throw that at you. But in reality, who the hell knows? Nobody knows. So if you came in with a game plan before you push those buttons, it'd be a different story, right? So in other words, if you said, all right, I'm buying this Micron dip here, and there was some flow into that dip, I'm looking for a quick bounce back for a quick trade. And I'm looking to take that. Okay? It bounces back, you take it. If you said, all right, I'm buying this Micron dip, I'm buying June calls, and I'm looking for a run, I don't know, to new highs or something like that. One, I think your expectations were a little too much there. Two, you were wrong, and barring you can step into a miracle market, I don't know, Trump pumps something next week, and Micron goes to $35 and you get bailed out. But you got to be willing to say to yourself, if I was wrong, this is a loser, and okay, next case. You understand what I'm saying? You have to be able to lose. So what you're going to do is you're going to focus all your attention, all your energy on Micron because you bought it without a plan, sloppy. You're not going to look to take advantage of anything else that might come across your desk because all your attention's on Micron, and this is make or break for you. Micron, which has been catching flow forever, aggressively since this box over here, is make or break for you, David, all the way up here. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't know what to tell you. I really don't know what to tell you. And I'm being honest with you. I think you making money on these calls, as far as longer term and longevity in this game for you, I think is the worst thing that could happen. Because if you do get bailed, you're going to do it again. And you may even increase your size the next time, and you're going to get hit over the head. And you're going to get hit over the head. So I don't know you, David, from Adam. I don't know what you're trying to get out of this game. I don't know, what your intentions are. Are you looking to trade as a hobby? I mean, the way it looks like, it sounds like a hobby. But if you're looking to find consistency, you got some drastic changing to do before you can even get on that path. I mean, in simple terms, no matter what you're doing, David, it's pretty simple, and it will change your end drastically. Okay, whatever it is you're looking at, flow, charts, whatever it may be, it's pretty simple. Your signals fire. You like what you see. You put on a position. You know your downside risk. You know what you're looking for as far as upside. You're prepared for it. And if it doesn't happen, it's just a loser, and you're looking to do the same exact thing the next time your signals fire again. That simple approach. Because it's not just about Micron. Micron, the CEO, could get eaten by a bear over the weekend, and Micron's down 10 straight points on Monday. No matter what the chart flow or the news looked like prior. And there's nothing you can do about it. It's not about Micron. It's about Micron, US Steel, Apple, Facebook, Netflix, and the 20 names that you've touched throughout the year, and you finding more green than red. That's what this game is about. And if you can't play it that way, I would suggest taking your size down dramatically and entertain yourself, but don't go broke doing it. Because that's all you're trying to do. You're playing for the action and you want to entertain yourself, and that's fine. Like I said, I go to the racetrack, but I know I'm going to the racetrack to make a donation. I'm not going to lie to myself and say I'm going to play all 9 races today at the racetrack and I'm going to make money consistently. I mean, come on. So I play enough to keep me entertained. I have fun. I make a day out of it. I know I'm going to lose money, and I'm okay with it. What else we got? Sam saying, hey, Jesus, bought some AKS July 7 calls. I know you talked about X as a similar play. Yeah, Sam, pretty much. I just think I mentioned that AKS, the contract size is there. It's just cheaper. In other words, you'll see 20,000 contracts bought. They pay 13 cents. So the wood that comes into X, meaning the dollar amount, is a lot bigger. The bets are bigger, even though the contract size is not. But I think you can put them in the same category now because AKS, the buying has picked up of recent into this weakness. In other words, since X has warned, that was this day here, the flow in AKS, the buy in AKS has seen an uptick. So now I would put AKS into that category. I just think you have a month less on your on those calls, so you got a little less time. But I think they'll move together anyway. Yeah, David, and again, I'm not singling you out, and you probably know the things you do wrong. I'm hoping a light bulb goes off when I tell you these things. That's all. Because it went off for me. Luckily, it went off early in my career because I don't know. When it comes to, I guess because maybe I've been gambling my whole life, so I know what to expect. I know there are certain things you need to do in this game for you to find a way to make money. And a lot of times traders will brush them aside because they can't get rich instantly off of them. And they rather get paid sooner than later, so they break a lot of those rules to try to attain that. But the reason I even bring these things up is so, like I said, if you're looking to take a professional approach to this, there are certain things, and as far as from what you're telling me, major things that you need to change for you to find success. And I told you in simple English, without going into detail, that's a major thing right there. You like to set up in a name for whatever reason, whether it's call buying charts, you're putting on a position, you know what you're willing to risk right off the bat. Stop loss, calls, you're putting in whatever you're willing to lose, whatever the case may be. You know what you're looking for as far as upside, and you have a plan at least. Okay? And if, for example, Micron doesn't work out and is a loser, it's okay. It's normal. You're taking the same exact approach with Amazon, and that would have been a winner. You understand? Or you're taking the same exact approach with a pen, and that would have been a winner. Or you take the same exact approach with an Apple, and that's a loser. I mean, they all have to be treated the same. And what I mean by the same, winner or loser. A loser's just a loser, and you have to be able to live with it. If one loser can really knock you out of the box, you're destined to fail because it's the inevitable. And that's why I'm telling you that. So that's why, David, don't get the wrong impression like I'm trying to school you. I'm just telling you from my experience. Listen, I'm not an old man, but I've been in the game long enough. I've traded money for clients professionally. That taught me a lot in itself. Traded my own money. And over the years, you see many players in this game who have found success, but even more so that haven't. And the players in this game that come in without a plan and without some sort of risk management structure, at the least some sort of structure, it's not a coincidence they all fail. They all fail. Because what happens is it's the one batch of losers that bite you in the ass. You guys heard me say it on Twitter. It's easy to think you have some sort of system or you're a guru when the market does this. It's easy. All you got to do is get long. You can break any rule you want. The market keeps going higher and bails you out. But what happens when that comes to an end? What happens? If you're not changing your approach and you're doing the same exact thing you were doing here, you're going to get walloped. Walloped. All right, so let me get to one or two more questions and I'll take off here. Do you use CPCE chart as an indicator of overall market sentiment? Yeah, I don't use this one in particular. This one is from TC2000, and it pretty much will give you an idea at the extremes. You know what I mean? I'll give you an idea at the extremes. So what I use this for basically is, especially when swing trading, it's a powerful gauge, because when you get low readings on these things, it's usually a good time to rein it in, maybe lock in some profits you were looking to lock up, but more importantly, not put on new positions at the pace you were putting on. So at the least, stop buying as much as you were, and will save you money. Okay? And then, again, what I love about these sentiment readings is when you get those exaggerated spikes, and you have a lot of the retail money leaning on the bearish side too heavily, usually sets up a great risk reward. on the long side. And it's all relative, right? If you're looking on an intraday basis, you're looking for the squeeze intraday. If you're looking on a day-to-day basis, you're looking for that bigger squeeze over the course of maybe days or months. So it's all relative to what you're trying to get out of it. But I found, through my experience, the adding flow with sentiment has been a powerful, powerful thing for me. Powerful. The problem is, for them to line up together is, I wouldn't say rare, but you have to be really selective. The powerful combination of flow and sentiment pre-election. Again, I'm not even talking about into the election. People forget to realize there was a monster squeeze before the election that if you followed flow and sentiment, had you positioned on the right side and then some. Here you could see even the bazookas all lows before that, but you could see back before the election. Where am I here? Oh, here I am. Hold on. What we had here was we had flow really turning sour. We had a lot of put action. Sentiment was pretty bearish, but got to an extreme right around here. Right here. Okay? And so basically that told us that all the public money was positioning bearish. Okay? And then what we saw in addition to that, we saw the smart money start to position on the other side. Okay? We were seeing VXX call buying throughout this little time frame. Right at the end of this, we started seeing droves in size of VXX and UVXY put buying. So betting against volatility. We started to see IWM aggressive call sweeper activity as opposed to seeing put activity prior to that. So there were puts. Then all of a sudden that flow turned to call buying. And I kid you not, literally days before we had this squeeze, and then we had the election. And you guys know what happened after that. But there was, without a doubt, low risk trade in my opinion, because you didn't have to hold through the election prior to that. So yeah, in my opinion, when you combine sentiment and flow, that's a deadly exacta right there. All right, guys, I apologize if I missed some of your questions. I'm the worst when it comes to trying to sift through these things. Every time I try to put them in order, they go back to the way they were, and it's throwing me off whack. But you guys know where to find me anyway. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me in the room. All you guys should be in the lounge. I don't see why not. Like I said, there's no credit card, no obligation, nothing like that. You'll have access to the market update section, which if you're into flow and sentiment, you'll find it quite useful. I post a lot of stuff pre-market, post-market. A lot of members use this section. So you get that you get free access to that as well. And that's it. Like I said, if you guys want to dip your beak and take a shot and see what we have to offer, you could go to wallstreetjesus.com. You get 50% off the first month. You get everything, including the private Twitter feed. We also offer separate Wise Guy Revealed if you want to, in detail. There's a lot of videos on there. Lucci's on there, how he utilizes flow. And you get a month to the Steam Room for free as well. So this is $225. That's included in the $499, and you get all this with it. A lot of cool Lucci stuff as well in there. All right. Or if you really want to just a more affordable but simpler version, this is the private Twitter feed only. And you get the flow alerts, open interest, some sentiment stuff. But you don't get, again, you don't get to talk to the traders in the room. You don't get the audio video, which really, feedback from members has, they've told me, has really made a dent. you know, and it's a lot easier. You know, I can type, I could type out some commentary on how aggressive the flow might be, in my opinion. But the feedback I get from people is pretty funny. They say they could tell from my voice, the excitement in my voice, on how noteworthy the activity may be. Because I'm not going to lie, I get pretty excited when there's aggressive sweeper activity coming into a name. And you can most definitely sense that in the way I broadcast that through the audio video. So you won't get that in the private Twitter, but the private Twitter, again, more affordable if you can't afford it right now and you're just starting off trading wise, or you just want to get a quick, easy feel. You could do this with the market update section, see if it's for you for a month, and then give us a shot. All right, but like I said, go to wallstreetjesus.com. You get it all there. And you can hit up Lucci or I anytime if you have any questions. All right, guys, enjoy the weekend. Happy Father's Day, by the way, to all you dads out there. Enjoy your weekend. It's your weekend, and we'll get back at it next week again. Thanks for coming out, everybody.